question that a lot of people I'm sure have right now, and I'm sure a lot of CEOs calling you as well, that capital markets have tightened. It's a completely different world 2 years ago or so. And founders are struggling to figure out where's that line between growth and profitability and telling a story or pivoting or pirouetting, sometimes saying whatever they think the investors want to hear, and suddenly after 3, 4, 5 conversations finding themselves in no man's land because they no longer even understand what they themselves believe. There's a lot of difficult things about cutting burn or not cutting burn and how much to cut. All the above, right? So summarizing all of that, I think the question that I would have is, what are you advising people, not to people who are going to run out of money in 3 months, because you tell them to find a but people who have 12 months, 18 months, who are building companies. How do you think about fundraising? How do you think about storytelling? And how do you think about building a business in these tough environments?
Yeah, I mean, this is from advice I used to give at YC time, which is everyone focuses on pitching. It's really about building a good business. If you have a good business, the market somehow figures it out. And the market is investors, employees, customers. Everybody figures it out. So all of your mental energy, regardless of what the macro environment should be, is like, how do I build a good business? And just to make sure we're all on the same page of a business, I didn't say a startup or something. A business is revenue minus expenses equals profit. Sometimes people forget that. That means you have to figure out how to get your revenue, how you keep down expenses, and is that ratio in a way that you get profit on the other side. A lot of folks for a long time, as you know, we're very capital efficient. They just haven't been focused on that. So if you're not focused on it, focus on it. We are building businesses. Even though they're software businesses, they're still businesses. So now let's talk about the environment we're in today, which is kind of the fall, winter of 2023. Everything on the horizon says it's going to get worse before it gets better, in the sense that lots of companies raised money in 2020, 2021 on really high valuations. I mean, there was a company that came to us to sell to us that had raised at a $500 million valuation, had $2 million in revenue, and 100 people and like 50 million in the bank. And they're like, well, we'll give you 50 million to take the company on. And I said, well, the 50 million will only pay your payroll for like, a year or so. And then I got 100 employees, then I got to feed. Like, it's not just about shuffling money from one bank account to another. It's about like, the people have to be productive. If they're not productive, it's not worth buying. And so I do think a lot of those companies, once those companies start folding, and they are, you're going to have this domino effect into venture funds, markdowns. And suddenly funds that are out there raising money are going to maybe, or literally not raising money. It's the first time I've ever heard venture funds, which are perpetually raising money, when I asked them, who we know, Bilal, is like, I asked them and they said, oh, actually, we're not raising money. It's like, that's the first time I've ever heard that since, I've known you. And so I think those markdowns are going to have that follow-on issue, which is there's just less funds being raised. And then therefore, I think next year, Q1, Q2 next year, I think could be extremely difficult. I'm speaking of Bay Area software companies, venture back, right? I think it'd be completely different. So within that context, as the environment gets more and more difficult, markdowns keep happening, there's going to actually be less checks written. And I think everyone's going to get more and more sober. I still see this crazy stuff of like the normal YC seed round being, 20 million post. And I just say no to them. I say, hey, guys, your A is going to be, with 3 million ARR is going to be 25 posts. So why wouldn't I just wait 2 years and invest in the A? And so I think that the point is, if you're a founder right now, it's not getting easier. It's going to get much more difficult. So preserve capital if you don't have a business model. Even if you have a business model, preserving capital becomes like the number one goal. If you have an opportunity to raise money because you have a local high or local maximum, I would raise money. Full stop. That's the advice.